Presented by Revolution Radio, broadcasting live from the Roanoke Valley of southwestern Virginia. Join us and see what life looks like from a medium's perspective with Reverend Tracey Lockwood, the medium's medium. We'll explore the tools of psychic development, hear stories and experiences from the other side, and learn to listen to our natural intuition. Now, our host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Before we get too deep in today's show, I just wanted to mention that I am offering my certification program. It's a professional level psychic mediumship certification program, good for anyone at the intermediate or advanced level. And I'm also beginning to offer in August a weekly development circle via live webinar. You don't have to be on site for either of those programs. You can just sign up and join me from the comfort of your own home. I'm also going in January to be offering a spirit art and channeling workshops, and doing those again in June each year. So just heads up on that. Well, today's guest is a really special person to me. She is a professional psychic medium. She was kind enough to mentor some of the students in my certification program with her expertise, which was deeply appreciated. She was born in a small town in Virginia, and she was raised by a very devout Catholic father, a Catholic father and a Methodist mother. And she'd always been really intrigued by the ritual and ceremony of the Catholic Mass, and has a deep respect for all spiritual beliefs and cultures, as I do too, but hers came from a different root there. And as a child, she always knew when something was about to happen, and she started very early in her life talking to those that had crossed over. She has traveled throughout the U.S. Many times, offering her gifts to those that have had the opportunity to work with her. And she's also worked with law enforcement on murder cases, missing persons situation, and other legal incidences. She's an ordained minister, an accomplished artist, teacher, Reiki master. She's a visionary and the organizer of an annual event in Lynchburg, Virginia, called the Festival of Light. It's actually in Forest, Virginia, right beside Lynchburg, for those of you that might know where that is. And she's also an author, and her first book was about house clearing experiences and ghost encounters and seances, and we're really hoping that that's not the last book that she's writing. And I know you're just going, Tracey, tell us who it is. And so I'd like to introduce to you professional psychic medium Therese Sharp. Welcome to the show, Therese.
Hello, Tracey. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me today.
You are so welcome. I'm so glad you've been on the show before, and I just was thrilled. And I was really tickled by the topic that you chose for today, which is awareness versus consciousness. And if you would you give your website address to people that are listening? They sometimes like to tune in.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. That's it. Yes.
It's mystic-visions with an S .webs.com. And I also have a Facebook page, Mystic Visions, Psychic Readings by Therese. So you're welcome to visit both of those if you'd like.
Oh, yeah. I encourage people to visit your Facebook page and like it while you're there too. You
Yeah.
know, it might be a surprise to some of you out there listening to today's show that I would have chosen a medium to talk to you about consciousness and awareness. And you might even think that that topic is more suited to a spiritual teacher or a philosopher. But as mediums, not only do we have to master certain stages of consciousness and be very aware, but in the process of doing so while reading for our clients or meditating, we encounter beings of really great wisdom along the way. And my first question for you today, Miss Teresa Sharp, is what is the difference in your mind between awareness and consciousness? And talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, they're basically the same, just on different levels. In my experience, awareness is consciousness, but recognizing the realization of knowledge. Consciousness is awareness of your existence and a feeling of being completely awake from the soul level. And I feel that when you're in conscious awareness as a medium and as a psychic, these two things will help you connect to the greater grid, if you want to call it, of where the other souls are existing, from whatever level they're at. It's all encompassed in some type of consciousness and awareness on many different levels. So that's how I view.
Yeah, so you're thinking like awareness is something more maybe related to the physical dimension, and consciousness is our connection to all dimensions?
Yeah, if you want to compare it to like a computer, consciousness is like tapping into the internet. You ask a question to the internet and you get 6 million answers, And it's this consciousness of being in existence with the same energy as the people that have crossed over, or the angelic realm, or your spirit guides. It's all some type of consciousness. I believe that there's different levels of consciousness. Of course, you have the physical consciousness. You're aware of your body.
Mm-hmm.
It's the subconscious, where you know to breathe, to blink your eyes. Your superconscious level is when you're connected to that higher being, God, if you will, or universal mind, and you know about that.
Yes, yes.
So I feel that consciousness has many different facets to it. And wherever you are in your life, as you and I are mediums, we do tap into a higher consciousness. So, and there's many different levels of that.
Yeah, a lot of times people are, well, let me ask you this. Do you think that consciousness is part of being a sentient soul? Like the fact that we have that dimension to our being where we're perceiving and experiencing, do you think consciousness is tied to that unseen aspect of ourselves more so?
Yeah, I think it's valid, very valid, to be part of in that consciousness. Like I said, there's so many different levels of consciousness. There's the physical sentient being consciousness of, I've got to get up and go to work. I've got to drive my car. You're in the consciousness of that movement of the human body. And the higher consciousness is when you and I tap into a different type of consciousness.
What about animals? What about animals? Do you think they have more than an awareness, that they also have a consciousness?
I do. I think they have far more consciousness than we do, because they're totally working on the intuitive level. And they're, what is the word I'm looking for? I guess intuitive would be the best thing I can come up with right now. But yeah, I do feel instinct. Everything is instinct to them. And when you're in complete and total awareness and consciousness, your instinct is heightened very wide. So you can tap into, and they can sense things because they don't have that human thought process that we have to struggle with on a daily basis.
Yeah, very present usually, although they retain, a lot of people think that they don't have memory. Of course they have memory. All things have memory. Even rocks carry a memory
exactly.
of what's
Everything
gone on.
is energy. Yeah.
Yes,
because everything is energy. Everything holds. It's like with quartz crystals. They have that recorder type thing where they can record energy, and you can access it when you tap into meditating with a crystal.
Yes.
So that's
it's
another type of universal consciousness. It's just so expansive. It's hard to put it in one little definition.
Yeah, and that's why psychometry also would be carrying those stories. We're able to touch an object and feel those things too. Yeah, it's such a weird world. We think we're in a physical world, but scientifically we know that when we touch a table or sit in a chair or drive our car, that actually there's more space between the molecules than the molecules in terms of their substance. It's really interesting, the perspective that we gain. You had mentioned about the levels of consciousness, and that made me think in terms of our energy and chakras. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, we have the 7 chakras, so we'll touch on 7 levels of consciousness connected to the chakras. And, the root is the survival chakra. And when you're in a panic moment, say, for example, your house is burnt down, you've lost all your possessions, and you're totally conscious in the survival mode, your consciousness goes totally to that survival. So that's one level of it, and then you come up to the sacral, and that's your creative. When you're in that creative flow, if you're an artist or any type of creation that you're making, and you're right in the midst of creating something, then your consciousness is right there in that creation. And then you come up to your solar plexus, to where everything is emotion. If you've had a death, or if you've had some type of trauma, and you're in the midst of that. So that's where your consciousness goes to that particular thing. So, and you raise it all up. Those are the lower 3 chakras that connect you to the earth type energies. Then you come to the heart chakra, which is where we're entering into a time now where everybody needs to tap into their heart center, because that's where the top 3 chakras and the bottom 3 chakras meet. And, everything that is on an earthly dense type thing in the bottom 3, and then you've got the top 3 coming together right at heart center. So when you're in love,
using that intuitively rather than emotionally, not losing your emotions, of course, but we can allow our heart to lead us astray by its desires, but when we get into the intuitive aspect of our heart, then we have truth. Yes?
Yeah, that's true. And then you come up, with the heart center, though, with the heart chakra, the consciousness of love. There's so many different levels of love. There's the love of your child, there's the love of your parents, the love of your spouse, your grandchildren. There's nothing like the love of a grandchild. And when you're in that moment, your consciousness shifts, and then you go up to the top 3. You start with the crown, and that's your connection to spirit, to the higher consciousness, to the internet web of consciousness. When you come down to the 3rd eye, that's your intuitiveness there. So it's all a matter of what each one of those chakras represent is where your consciousness goes at that moment, and your awareness follows that. So you're in conscious awareness on some level all the time. And the chakras, that's how it connects. To me, that's how it connects. And then you have the... Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say that it's fascinating to me that we have the chakras and how those relate to the different levels of, I guess you could consider them consciousness, the physical plane, etheric, astral, mental, etheric. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but the little dimensions. Yeah, go on. And with what you were saying, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're fine. That's I was thinking about, you've got the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the superconscious mind, as well as how your consciousness is connected to the chakras. The conscious mind is your everyday life. You get up, you do what you got to do. You go to work, you take a shower. That's just your conscious mind doing everything that you do. You get to the subconscious, and that's where we just breathe. Breathing is a subconscious thing. Blinking your eyes, it's like you know how to walk.
Yes.
It's those type of things. The superconscious mind is where you connect to that higher consciousness. That's your connection to spirit, and it's the same as the crown chakra. You can connect. It's like connecting to the internet. That's the only way I can compare it. Is you can click on Google a question, and boom, immediately you've got millions of answers. So when you direct your consciousness to your crown chakra or your super consciousness, then you can connect to that infinite wisdom out there, whatever you choose to call it. You're connected to that type of consciousness.
Yeah,
that's how I see it.
Yeah, that makes me think about the subconscious mind sort of being that interface between the superconscious and the normal everyday workaday conscience. And, that would be, I guess, where the symbology of dreams would exist, or our diffuse awareness of other people's emotion, our empathy and our telepathy, not necessarily focused, but definitely active. I think everybody has those abilities.
Oh, yeah. We all do. It's just a matter of how we apply it to our lives. You and I work on a different level than everyday people that don't do this. They don't think of consciousness or awareness. They just are aware. And it's a whole different level working as a psychic and a medium. You really have to be conscious of what's around you and aware of what you're feeling, seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling. All the five senses tie into that as well. So it's all very interconnected.
Yeah. I wanted, that makes me think too about things that might interrupt our awareness too. What are some of the things that could block or interrupt our process there?
That's a good question. Some type of trauma, illness, things that take your attention away from that. And you know what I've been through since January. So that kind of took me away from my awareness, and my consciousness went totally towards that health issue and away from my psychic stuff for a while. But, I think anything that disrupts, I guess that's it. Anything that disrupts will cause you to shift.
What do you think about technology?
Oh, brother, that's a whole different kind of consciousness. I think technology has its place, and it's a good thing, but it's so abused and so taken people away from their surroundings. They're constantly looking at the phones or their iPads, or, you have to do a computer at work now. But it's like you go out to eat, and 90% of the people in there, they're not talking to each other. They're looking at their phones.
Yeah.
They're texting, watching Facebook, or, instead of interacting with the person that you came to meet for dinner. And there's very little conversation going on anymore. So consciousness and awareness to technology, I think, is it's sad how we have turned away from the human factor.
Yeah, we have physical screens that we're looking at rather than the screen of our mind or our intuitive screen.
Yeah, it's more of an unconscious state of being rather than a conscious and aware. It's unaware and unconscious. You talk about zombies. You look at the phone, and it's people walking around with phones looking down, and they're just like zombies walking around, and nobody looks at each other, nobody smiles at each other much. It's
it's
sad.
kind of like a collective hypnosis or something, where everybody zones in. I guess that's true on movies, and not that it's evil or bad to watch movies, but it is like a guided meditation. Everybody is following the story, if it's worthy of our focus, of course. But, if it's a good, gripping story or a really emotional story, we're led through that story collectively in terms of our experience. I know one medium told me that she thought that TV was meditation. Actually, a couple have said that. And I don't know that I agree with that, because I don't think it allows the mind to rest or to create, which are be the two purposes in my mind of meditation. But
to me, it's more of it stimulates your brain rather than music is another thing. You can put music on, and that helps. It's still a distraction, but music is different. But TV programs, and I think TV, anything can be good or bad if you allow it to become your whole life.
Right.
But, if you think about TV programming, it's programming you, and it has led us to believe that just because you see it on this TV show or you hear it on the news, that's the truth.
The truth, or a standard or a norm. I know, the show like Leave It to Beaver was very misleading in terms of, this is going way back for those young people out there. It was a black and white TV show, but it was, or at least originally I think it was, and, it was a family of white, middle-class American family. It didn't take any ethnicity into consideration. It didn't take any other economic strata into consideration. It didn't take any kind of depth of behavior, and people started to wonder, because it looked so perfect, if there was something wrong with them, if they weren't as calm with the children or as submitted to the process of the home life, with the roles very clearly defined between man and woman, and June Cleaver with her pearls vacuuming like that's going to happen. I'm either buck naked or in some kind of horrible T-shirt when I vacuum, and I don't want anyone near me when I'm doing it either. But it does, it meets our expectation, and it comes into our awareness and affects our consciousness to have our minds guided in that direction. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, you look at some of these shows like CSI Criminal Minds. Some of the things that you see on there, it is putting out a message to people that may be inclined to be a criminal. It's giving them all the tools and everything they need to know how to commit the perfect crime.
I actually thought that the same thing, and I was mainstreaming, Criminal Minds, I think it was, for a few days, and I started to just be so stressed, and it entered my dream state, and I started thinking, why am I turning my focus to something so negative? It's not that negative things don't occur in the world, but there are also many beautiful things in the world.
There are. But don't you think that since there has been those type of shows has gradually came up to where we're being desensitized to seeing a mangled body with its eyeball hanging out? We've become so desensitized that those type of things really don't affect a lot of people anymore because that's all they've grown up seeing.
Well,
and that creates another whole consciousness that, this is the norm.
Another disconnect.
It's programming. It's a different type of programming.
Yeah.
Not that I don't mind looking. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just thinking about video games too. And I'm not, I definitely enjoy my Netflix. I was thinking, regular TV really is disruptive because you get interrupted by ads. It just sort of, I gave up that many, many, many years ago just because I found myself watching the TV, trying to find one story and not wanting to watch the ads. So flipping to a second story, trying to follow two storylines simultaneously and leaving exhausted and confused at the end of the process. So I got rid of that. But, I do still watch Netflix. Sometimes I'll play something really simple in the background, like sort of a naive British comedy or drama, in the background, or Murder, She Wrote, because Jessica Fletcher always solves her crimes. There's kind of a rhythm and a pattern to it. And then I can create, work on my website or, other things. And I do think technology is very helpful in many arenas of our lives too. But when we allow it to affect our awareness or consciousness, I think that's where it goes.
Yeah, it's like with the younger generation. I don't know if you saw, I think it was last week or week before last, 2020 had where those teenagers were addicted to texting and they had to be put in a rehab because they were freaking out because their parents had taken their phones away. It's like a drug. They have become addicted. Yeah. So that's why I say it's shifting consciousness to let's just be brain dead and rely on this instant gratification for the moment and not have to interact. I don't know how, and I'm not saying all teenagers and all people that have cell phones and computers do that. It's just, there's a large number of the population that is so dependent on that.
Well, it does help. If I have something uncomfortable to do, like return an item at a commercial entity, it's not my favorite thing to do. And I don't know why. I don't expect the person behind the counter to look at me with great disdain and go, oh, it wasn't good enough for you. They really don't do that. But, I'll get on the phone and be in the middle of a conversation and apologize to the, it's sort of like a buffer, or if you're waiting for something and you feel nervous, then going into that zone of communication with a friend or, checking your Facebook or Facebook email, Skype, etc. In my case, like all the different social medias, to make sure there are no messages and feel productive. I don't know. Oh, Theresa, we're at the bottom of the hour. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back for the opportunity that they provide us to air our show. Revolution Radio is the largest free listener-supported radio station in the world. So please help support their efforts and our airtime by visiting the station's support page at freedomslips.com. For those of you listening, we're speaking with psychic medium Theresa Sharp, and her website is mystic-visions. Theresa, welcome back. We were right in the midst of talking about how technology can disrupt or alter our awareness and consciousness.
A quote by Paramahansa Yogananda comes to my mind and about all of that. He says the time will come when mankind will begin to get away from the consciousness of needing so many material things. More security and peace will be found in the simple life. And I think with technology has created less than a simple life. I think there's a lot to be said about a simple life.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk on top of you, but I'm enthusiastically agreeing because I think that technology is wonderful. It speeds up connection. It speeds up the convenience of our life. We take less time. We don't have to take our clothes out and beat them on a rock and scrub them with our hands and hang them up on a line and, all those things. And, a lot of conveniences have sped up our life, which is, I've often said that if I moved into a new house that I was building, after having tap water, the next thing that would go in after the toilet was the dishwasher, because I just really appreciate the service that does for me.
Well,
but we can't
now that type of technology, I'm not talking about that. That's good technology.
Right.
Although,
it does speed us up. It does speed us up. It
Mm-hmm.
used to be if you wanted to talk to someone, if they didn't answer their phone, that you had to call back or you had to walk across town and tap their door. It was a much
Mm-hmm.
slower pace to life when you and I were growing up. And I'm not over idealizing that because, again, there's so many things I really enjoy, and I'm definitely a techie. I love, being able to be on the radio, and I love doing my own website, and I love, linking social media together and learning how to do all aspects of teaching on the web, that kind of thing. But it is maybe what you're bringing is a very important reminder to put down the screens and back away slowly, at least during part of your day, so that you can.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because I enjoy I think technology, like I said, technology is a good thing. It's the people that turn it into their God, so to speak, or they're dependent on it to, mainly cell phones. And that's all I have is a cell phone. I have no landline anymore, but we've become so dependent on that.
Yes.
That a lot of people wouldn't know. The younger generation that's never had a landline have to wait for somebody to hang up. There's no call waiting when we were growing up, no caller ID. You just have to figure it out. If you answered the phone, you were surprised about who it was.
Unless you were psychic.
Unless, it's true, yeah. This is true. And then if somebody from the other side called, you're a medium if they call you on the phone. Yeah, you hit mediumship if somebody from the other side rings your phone.
That brings up another topic. I've got like 3 questions on that. The first one was, now I know you were very attuned to spirit, as I was, from an early age. But as you moved toward working as a professional in the field, were there stages of awareness and consciousness that you went through as you developed your gift?
That's a good question. I've never really given that much thought. I'm thinking that there were, because it went from being so easy to, I think on the other show I told the story about the priest that passed away and he sat up and talked to me. That was natural. I guess I was just in complete and total awareness of everything existed at 10 years old, and then I grew out of it, and it became more of a struggle to try to communicate. So now it just happens. Mm-hmm. I know that when I get in my space, if somebody's coming to me for a reading, and it's mm-hmm. specifically for a medium reading, I take at least 15 minutes to connect, get on my little internet to the other side, and I'll feel them come through. So it's a process. I don't know if it's different for everybody, but that's just the way I've always done it. So I am very aware of what I do and how they connect with me. I'll have the first thing I get is this cold chill goes up my spine like somebody has opened the freezer door on my back. And I know that door to the other side has opened. Mm. And whoever steps through that door is who wants to come through, not necessarily all the time the people that want to talk to, but who wants to talk to them? So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Well, that answered both the first and second question, which was, how do you adapt your consciousness? Because as psychic mediums, when we're in that zone, that's altered state of awareness, but also consciousness in terms of connection to the other realms, there is a certain shift in our brain that happens because we don't walk around in a perfect state of balance 24 hours a day. We get, irritated by traffic, or we rush around trying to get groceries, or, have an argument with a friend, or, there are real things that occur in our lives that we have to sort of reset our energies for so that we can be in that receptive state. And I really liked what you said. I think everybody does it their own way, perhaps, or maybe there's a method that I'm missing. I don't know. But
I just know the way I do it.
Yeah, but I did really like what you said about how you just kind of sit down, you take time to sort of connect. And the main thing that I wanted to point out to the listeners is that you start to feel the connection. It's not like a giant movie that just pows into your head, although they can be very visual. But the first way and the most authentic and honest way to connect with spirit is just clairsentience, just feeling that totality, I guess. How would you describe it?
Well, that's the way it begins for me, is a feeling. And I have all 5 of those. I can't remember them off the top of my head. The clairaudience is where you hear. I hear, I see, I feel, I taste, and I smell.
Yes, yeah, me too.
But usually that feeling, the coldness on my back, that's the first thing I get. And then it varies with the other ones, how they come through. I had a family came right before Christmas, or right after Christmas, and the young man had committed suicide. And one thing, I don't want to know anything before they come. I just, if I know they're coming for a reading or somebody that has crossed over, and I tell them up front, it's, hit or miss. They don't always come through. But the young man had committed suicide, and it was the family. And she had, the girlfriend had a bracelet that this young man had made. And as soon as I held it in my hand, it was just instant. I could hear him talking as plain as they were.
Yes.
And he came through with such vivid information for the mother and the stepfather and the girlfriend. And we were all in tears because of what he told me was so sad. And they understood why he did it. So it was full-on audio for him with that. And sometimes I get images. It's like a slideshow of somebody else's memory. And I just put out there what I'm getting, what I'm seeing, and it doesn't make any sense to me, but it makes total sense to them. And always not right away. It's a lot of information for somebody to absorb in that hour or however long they come to actually, it's just a lot of information.
Yeah, I like that you pointed that out. Sometimes people think like it's sort of like a slot machine or an instant purchase, or slide your credit card through and bam, there's an instant result, but it is a building and layering of information so that, and sometimes it comes full circle to where the information at the beginning connects with the information at the end in a way that's totally unexpected to even the medium. It's so interesting. I like that you said that for you, it comes in like a sensation on your spine. And I was thinking about the chakras, how they're the interface between the two worlds. For me, I look down, I just sort of quiet every cell in my body. And there's a certain, it's almost like a shift or a switch where my awareness is heightened. And I tend to think of it as something in front of me. And I start becoming aware of people around my client, or sometimes before I get there, just traveling along in the car with me or something, that kind of thing. And that shift of consciousness is something that it takes, it's easier for some, but takes some discipline to put down your ego and put down your intellect, your ideas, and get into that state of neutrality. And I think, I think it's, it does, just you and I do this regularly. We read for people and shift into that state of consciousness. But even we have to refocus ourselves before that time. It would be too abrupt to go from a high emotional situation or physical endeavor to shift gears with no transition at all. Doesn't mean that it can't happen very quickly, but I like that you give yourself 15 minutes to do so. I usually use the drive on the way to my office, or sometimes when I'm doing phone and Skype readings, I probably take about the same, start turning off screens. Speaking of screens, get my head out of the left brain technological stuff and situate things in the house for quiet, and then get together my notepad and my timer and my pen and, get in that receptive state of mind there.
It's a totally, you definitely shift in consciousness when you get prepared to do a reading, of whether it's just a psychic reading or medium reading. I guess it's kind of like musicians or singers. When they get prepared to go on stage, they have to do their voice practice, they do all of that voice.
Yeah, the warm up. Yes, to adapt. Right, exactly. And that's a physical organ. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, I remember Janis Joplin was being interviewed one time, and how did she get prepared for that? Or is she thinking about the next lyric that's coming to mind? I think Dick Cavett interviewed her, and she says, no, it's just a total, I'm just feeling it. And it's just all about being in that moment. And it's like she was channeling the music, and that's why she was so Janis.
Yes.
There's nobody like her. But, it's very similar to that preparation.
Kind of a stillness of soul where you're not trying to force anything, where all you're like, oh my God, I hope I can give this person something that's going to be meaningful to them, or I wonder what they're talking about, getting that chatter still so it can just be as it is. It's, how, I was going to say, how do you think consciousness and awareness helps as far as doing your readings, psychic medium readings?
Oh, totally. I have to be both. I have to be aware, and I have to be conscious of the fact, on one level, I'm conscious that this person is coming to me with total faith and trust in the fact that I'm going to be communicating with somebody that they miss very badly. And I'm very conscious of their energy. I'm very aware that this could be very frightening for them. So there again, you go to the different levels of awareness and consciousness, because they're all in the moment. Especially new people and people that have never done it before. They're very in the moment, and they're usually, people are afraid when they come in because they don't know what to expect. And, they see movies and TV shows that sensationalize everything. And,
right.
It's not like that. It's not like, somebody's going to, bang a drum, even though I have had that happen once. But,
but it is way more of a natural process than that. Yes.
It is. It's just, it's that sixth sense that we all have, but most of us just don't pay that much attention to it. I mean, I do, but everybody's got that gift of intuitiveness, and everybody can tap into it. It's just a matter of what you want to do with it. And when I teach my students, I ask them first off of that, what is your intention of learning this? I mean, is this for personal reasons? Are you going to try to help people? Which what I would like to get across to them, that this is something that you're going to be helping other people, whether it's 10 people or 10,000 people. It's all about bringing consciousness and awareness to that there's more to this life than what we see and touch and taste. It's more to what's around us than just physical material things.
Absolutely.
Very important.
You know, you talked about your awareness of your client. I think that's a mistake that some demonstration mediums make, of disconnecting from the recipient of the information. They're so absorbed in what they're experiencing and seeing, and they're confident in their delivery, but they may not be sensitive to the emotional impact that their client is receiving. And you know, in terms of adjusting the band of consciousness, you know, there's infinite ways you can go in terms of your awareness. I just found the other day a thing that I had taken. It was a note that I took at Arthur Findlay College of Psychic Science in Essex. I was there in 2010 for a little more than 2 weeks studying heavily. And one of the requirements is that you not lose consciousness, you know, that you're not allowed to go into such a deep state with the delivery of your message that you are not aware of your client. And the other is that you specifically deliver messages from spirits, and they're not a big advocate of guides and angels and star people and totems. I do think that that adds a lot to a reading, but for a developed medium like yourself, you know, being able to tap into spirits, which are living people that have crossed over, or living people that haven't crossed over, you know, staying in the human realm is, that's the indication of true development and being able to hit those states of consciousness. The other stuff can get really esoteric, you know, getting into past lives, or AKA the Akashic records, which is just the matrix of information on the other side. But, you know, mastering the ability to key in on people, to stay aware enough that you're aware of your client. I think that just speaks volumes of the level that you personally operate at as a professional in the field. Teresa, we are at the end of our show. I don't know if you can hear the little music in the background.
I can, but that's okay.
If you want to reach Teresa, her website is mystic-visions-webs.com. If you want to reach me, it's mediumtracylockwood.com. And remember, it's never inappropriate to be kind, and without integrity, you have nothing.